The council chambers of Orevan were enormous, stretching high above the ground like a cathedral of stars. 12 alien species, each more unusual than the next, occupied the semicircular hall. Some had multiple eyes, some floated on anti-gravity pads, and some communicated through color changes in their skin, rather than words. The humans were small in comparison, standing on the floor while most other delegates hovered or towered above them. Despite their modest appearance, humans had always drawn attention. Their skin, simple in tone compared to the radiant scales, feathers, or membranes of the aliens, belied the energy that humans carried within. Humans were curious, persistent, and creative, qualities that had allowed them to make remarkable progress in centuries, faster than many older species. Yet, for the Council, humans were a puzzle. They acted unpredictably, sometimes boldly, sometimes passively, without regard for the subtle social rules that bound the other species together. Some council members found humans intriguing, others found them inconvenient. But no one could deny that humans had a strange influence. Even without armies or immense fleets, their presence had shaped alliances, trade agreements, and even the flow of technology. And now, that influence was to be quietly ended. The message arrived not through the usual channels of debate or formal accusation, but as a subtle notification in the Council's daily transmissions. The holographic screen in the human delegation chamber flickered to life with the emblem of the Orevan Interstellar Council. The words were simple, almost polite, but their meaning was cutting. Effective immediately, humans are no longer recognized as participants in the Interstellar Accord. This decision is final. The room fell silent. The human ambassador, a tall woman named Mara Tesh, blinked at the message. She turned to her team. None of them spoke at first. Their training, their entire lives, had prepared them for diplomacy, negotiation, and even conflict, but not for being dismissed without warning, without ceremony, without even a debate. "Is this a joke?" asked Lieutenant Jalen, his voice quiet but sharp. Mara shook her head. "No, it is final." No one in the human delegation protested. No shouts of outrage, no demands to speak. They simply sat in stunned silence, processing the reality. It was strange, almost serene. A human might have expected anger, but anger requires recognition of injustice. There was none here. The Council had cast them out, and the humans accepted it, not with submission, but with quiet acknowledgement. Across the chamber, the alien council members noticed the humans' calm. At first, some thought it was fear, others assumed shock. But Mara and her team did not fidget, nor did they shout. They simply began gathering their belongings, carefully dismantling their communicators, packing notes, and folding small personal items into compact cases. The aliens whispered among themselves. It was not supposed to happen this way. Every species, when rejected, protested. Every species, when cast out, left chaos behind. But humans had left nothing. No rage, no bitterness, no calls for vengeance. Just quiet. And yet, that quiet began to fill the chamber. It started as a feeling, a weight in the air. The hall, which had been filled with the hum of alien energy and voices, seemed emptier than it should have been. Not empty in a literal sense, but empty in a way that pressed against the senses. The aliens shuffled uneasily, looking around. For centuries they had measured influence in fleets, wealth, and armies, but this absence, this calm withdrawal, was different. "Do you feel it?" whispered one of the counselors, a tall, thin being whose skin shimmered like liquid silver. "Something is wrong." Another counselor, a mass of shifting shapes, responded in a voice that sounded like wind through reeds. "It is just the humans leaving. Why worry?" But worry grew. Slowly, imperceptibly, the chamber began to feel less alive. The hum of negotiations, The tension, the subtle power plays that had always been present, vanished. Humans had been an active part of the galaxy, whether recognized or not, and now their absence left a hollow space, a space that other species had never learned to notice until it became undeniable. Mara glanced around the room one last time. Her eyes, calm and steady, reflected no malice, no fear, no triumph, only understanding. Humans had never sought recognition for its own sake. They had never desired power merely to control. Their influence had always come from their creativity, their empathy, their stubborn will to adapt. And now, leaving quietly, they demonstrated that influence in a way that could not be measured with numbers or votes. Back on the human starships orbiting Oravon, the crew went about their routines with deliberate calm. Ships powered down their communications with the Council, folded their sensor arrays, and prepared for departure. There was no celebration, no triumphal music, no angry declarations broadcast to the galaxy. Humanity was leaving quietly, but not without leaving its mark. As the human fleet slipped out of orbit, alien observers could not help but notice the silence of the departing ships. No signals, no greetings, no attempts to protest or negotiate. The humans did not wave flags, did not fire weapons, did not broadcast messages of complaint. They simply left. The void they left behind began to resonate. Trade agreements that had relied on human mediation faltered. Systems that had relied on human engineering began to experience delays and errors. Diplomatic ties strained, not because humans had intended harm, but because humans had always been a stabilizing presence. And now, without human guidance, the galaxy started to feel uneven. On Earth, Mara and her team gathered in the main council chamber of the planetary fleet. The room was simple compared to the grandeur of Oravon, yet it felt like home. No alien banners, no floating delegates, just humans and their machines. Mara spoke first. "Humans have been cast out," she said, her voice even. "But we were never truly dependent on recognition. We survived without them before, and we will survive without them again." Her words were not bitter. They were not triumphant. They were simply true. Humanity had faced plagues that had wiped out entire colonies, wars that had shattered continents, and challenges from the void itself that had tested every skill and instinct. To be dismissed by alien council members did not compare. Lieutenant Jalen frowned. "Do you think they understand what they've done?" Mara shook her head. "Not yet, but they will." In the weeks that followed, humans returned to Earth's development programs with renewed focus. Scientists, engineers, and explorers began projects that were larger, smarter, and more ambitious than ever before. They built autonomous fleets capable of rapid construction and repair, communication networks that could operate across vast distances without alien infrastructure, and energy systems that could power entire star colonies. It was not revenge. Humans were not seeking punishment. It was something subtler, more effective. Preparation. Preparation to thrive, even in the absence of recognition, and to demonstrate that humanity's value could not be ignored, even when unacknowledged. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the alien council members began to feel the subtle consequences of their decision. A trading route collapsed because no one could solve a technical problem humans had always managed with quiet skill. A diplomatic negotiation spiraled into disagreement because human intuition had often guided compromises. Even minor crises, once swiftly handled by human mediation, began to grow, unresolved, until entire systems experienced tension. No one knew exactly why things were happening. The humans had not interfered. They had only left. And yet, every ripple traced back to the void they had created. In the silence of the council chambers, some aliens began to whisper. Perhaps we underestimated them. Others shook their heads, refusing to admit it. They were only humans, they said, small, simple, fragile. How could they have mattered so much? But the longer the silence persisted, the harder it was to deny. Humans had not protested their exile, yet their absence spoke volumes. It was not loud or angry. It was deliberate, controlled, and unyielding. And in that quiet, the galaxy began to feel the first tremors of realization. Humans were not ordinary. On Earth, Mara observed the stars from the observation deck. The ships of the human fleet glided silently through space. She did not smile, nor did she frown. The galaxy had made its choice. Humans would honor it, for now. But the silence they carried was not emptiness. It was presence. And presence, she knew, could be deafening. As the human fleet set course for distant systems, Mara made a note in her log. "We will show them, not through noise or fury, but through endurance, innovation, and quiet determination. They will remember us, even if they do not wish to." For the first time in centuries, humans had been cast out of interstellar politics, not by defeat, not by war, but by quiet exclusion. And for the first time, the galaxy would begin to understand that humans were never defined by recognition, authority, or council votes. Humans were defined by their will to survive, to adapt, and to create. The silence of humanity was no weakness. It was a statement, and in time, the aliens would realize the truth. Casting out humans without protest was not the end. It was the beginning of a quiet revolution the galaxy had not yet imagined. Years had passed since the human fleet had been quietly cast out of the Audiobook Interstellar Council. Earth had returned to its routines, but it was no longer the same planet it had been. Humans moved with purpose, as if the quiet dismissal had awakened something dormant in their collective spirit. Mara Tesh, now a senior strategist, watched from the orbital command station as new starships glided through space, silently and efficiently. Unlike the ornate ships of alien fleets, human vessels were simple in design but elegant in function. Every curve, every system, every panel had a purpose. They were not meant to impress. They were meant to endure, to explore, and to adapt. In the years following their exile, humans focused on silent strength. Colonies expanded on distant planets, each settlement equipped with autonomous infrastructure. Farms, energy grids, and transportation systems ran themselves with minimal oversight. Human engineers had perfected artificial intelligence that could learn and respond faster than any alien technology. And while the humans worked quietly, the galaxy began to notice the gaps left behind. Trade routes once stabilized by human negotiation faltered. Alien species, used to relying on human innovation, struggled to maintain the systems humans had quietly managed. A manufacturing hub on the planet Virith collapsed because humans had previously optimized the production algorithms. Without their subtle adjustments, shipments were delayed, causing food and medicine shortages across several nearby star systems. The Council of 12 Species convened again, this time not to dismiss humans, but to understand the consequences of their absence. The silver-skinned delegate from Lauren spoke first, his voice trembling slightly with unease. "They are gone, and the galaxy suffers," he said. "How could such small beings, so unremarkable, have held so much influence?" Others nodded reluctantly. The floating delegates of Zephyra admitted that several critical research projects had failed since humans left. Even the political manipulations, the subtle negotiations that kept hostile systems from going to war, had begun to unravel. Mara watched reports of these events unfold on her screens. She did not feel satisfaction or triumph. Humans did not seek revenge. Instead, they observed and prepared. Their work on distant colonies and starship construction continued with quiet efficiency, ensuring that when the time came, humanity could act in ways the galaxy would not anticipate. On Earth, the Council of Earth's Interstellar Strategy, CEIS, held regular meetings to coordinate these developments. Scientists, engineers, and strategists worked side by side, planning for a future where humans would not only survive without alien recognition, but thrive beyond it. Autonomous colonies on Vantor Prime are ready for full-energy self-sufficiency, reported Dr. Aisha Rahman, chief engineer, as she projected a holographic map of the colony. All systems are operational: food production, water filtration, power generation. They no longer require direct human oversight. Mara nodded. Excellent. Expand the same model to the outer colonies. We need every settlement to be fully independent. If the galaxy does not value us, we will prove that we do not need it. Meanwhile, small signs of human absence became more visible across interstellar space. A freighter traveling from Lauren to Zephyra malfunctioned in transit, delaying critical resources. Pirates took advantage of a weakened patrol network, previously coordinated by human fleet officers. Even simple communication networks optimized by human algorithms began to experience minor failures that escalated into larger logistical problems. The aliens did not understand why. Humans had not interfered. They had simply left. Yet their absence was shaping the galaxy in profound ways. On the orbital stations of Earth's fleet, Mara held a meeting with her top advisors. "The galaxy is beginning to feel our absence," she said, "but we are not yet intervening. Observation is our strategy. Patience is our weapon." Lieutenant Jalen, now commander of a fleet division, frowned. "But, Ambassador, some systems are collapsing. Shouldn't we help? Shouldn't we show them our capabilities?" Mara's gaze was steady. "We have shown them nothing yet. Any direct intervention will be noticed and politicized. For now, the most effective action is quiet development. Let the silent speak. Let the galaxy learn the value of humans without us telling them." As decades passed, humanity's projects grew more ambitious. Massive starships capable of interstellar construction were launched, each equipped with fully autonomous systems and crews that could maintain themselves indefinitely. Entire colonies were designed to terraform planets using intelligent drones that adjusted ecosystems in real time, ensuring that human settlements could flourish in even the harshest conditions. The humans communicated silently through subspace networks, sharing discoveries, innovations, and strategies. Their presence spread across space not through force, but through efficiency, ingenuity, and adaptability. Every new colony, every optimized system, and every successful mission reinforced the truth. Humans could thrive without permission or recognition from the galaxy's powerful species. And the aliens began to notice. In the council chambers of Oravon, tension was growing. The silver-skinned delegate had begun keeping records of incidents tied to human absence. The floating delegates from Zephyra were becoming nervous as diplomatic negotiations began to collapse, and systems that had once been stable became unpredictable. Even minor disasters, previously managed quietly by human intermediaries, now escalated into serious conflicts. "They should have protested," the Lauren delegate muttered. "Any other species would have caused chaos, demanded recognition, or attacked, but humans did nothing, and now we suffer because of it." The realization was dawning slowly, painfully. Humans did not need to fight to influence the galaxy. Their presence alone, even in absence, created order. And when that presence vanished, chaos quietly filled the space they left behind. On Earth, Mara monitored these developments through the Deep Space Observation Network. She noted each failure, each conflict, and each technological gap. Humanity did not intervene. They did not need to. The galaxy was learning its own lesson. Meanwhile, human culture thrived. The silence had allowed creativity to flourish without distraction. Scientists and engineers collaborated freely, sharing ideas across colonies with unprecedented speed. Humans developed new propulsion systems, advanced energy grids, and communication networks that could operate across entire star systems without relying on alien infrastructure. Humanity was preparing for a future the Council could not imagine. A future where humans would act as a central stabilizing force, not because they demanded it, but because the galaxy needed them. And when the time came, humans would reveal their strength, not in anger, not in war, but in undeniable capability. In the distant reaches of space, the first signs of human innovation began to ripple outward. Autonomous repair fleets rebuilt collapsed stations, terraforming drones converted barren planets into habitable worlds, and AI-driven construction ships built infrastructure at speeds no alien species had ever achieved. Yet all of this was done quietly. There were no announcements, no broadcasts of triumph. Humans understood the power of subtlety. They had learned that the galaxy often failed to notice what it could not measure, and their silence became a force more powerful than any weapon. Back on Earth, Mara reflected on the long-term strategy. We are shaping the galaxy without interference. Let them struggle without us. Let them learn that humans are not ordinary, and when the time comes, our presence will not need to be requested. It will be undeniable. Lieutenant Jalen leaned back, still struggling to grasp the human approach. It feels strange, watching them fail without doing anything. Mara smiled faintly. That is the strength of humans. We do not need chaos to prove our value. We let our absence speak. And when we act, the galaxy will understand that we are more than they ever believed. And so, humanity continued its quiet work. Colonies expanded into new star systems. Autonomous ships built networks of trade, energy, and communication that no alien species could rival. Humans trained their next generations in exploration, strategy, and science, preparing them to meet challenges far beyond the Council's reach. The galaxy, meanwhile, began to feel the weight of human absence more acutely. Systems that once functioned smoothly stumbled. Political alliances fractured. Trade agreements failed, and every failure, every ripple, traced back to one undeniable fact. Humans were gone, and the galaxy had underestimated their importance. And yet, in their silence, humans were not gone. They were watching, learning, and quietly shaping a future where their presence would be undeniable. They had been cast out without protest, but their absence spoke louder than any outcry ever could. For Mara and the leaders of Earth, patience was the greatest weapon. The galaxy would eventually recognize what humans had always known. True power was not in force or threats, but in the ability to endure, adapt, and create. And humans were unmatched in all three. The silence of humanity was no weakness. It was the loudest statement the galaxy would ever hear. And as decades passed, the aliens began to feel the first tremors of understanding. Casting humans out had not removed them. It had only shown the depth of their quiet, unstoppable strength. Decades had passed since humanity had been quietly cast out of the Audiobook Interstellar Council. During that time, humans had grown quietly but powerfully. Their colonies stretched across distant star systems. Their fleets moved with unmatched efficiency. Their networks of trade, communication, and logistics had become silent engines of stability in the galaxy, even without recognition. Yet, the galaxy outside began to falter. The first signs were small. Trade convoys arrived late. Communication relays malfunctioned. Minor disputes, once easily mediated, escalated into conflict. Alien species, once confident in their independence, began to struggle. And always, the whisper ran through the council chambers. Humans are absent. Systems fail. Chaos spreads. The alien council tried to compensate. They assigned more diplomats, more fleets, more resources. But it was useless. The humans had quietly woven themselves into the structure of the galaxy. Their absence was a hole no one else could fill. On Earth, Maratesh observed the unfolding events with careful calm. She stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute, overlooking a massive fleet assembled not for war but for readiness. The ships moved in perfect harmony, their crews trained to respond instantly to any challenge. Autonomous systems ran nearly all operations, allowing humans to focus on exploration, innovation, and observation. "We are ready," she said to Lieutenant Jalen, now a senior fleet commander. "The galaxy is finally beginning to notice our absence. Soon, they will have no choice but to acknowledge it." Jalen frowned. "But should we step in? Show them what humans can do?" Mara shook her head. "Not yet. Let them struggle for a little longer. Their recognition must be earned. Our goal is not to fight for respect. It is to be impossible to ignore. And when we act, it will not be aggression they remember, but clarity." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, systems once maintained by human ingenuity were failing at an increasing rate. On the industrial planet Virel, production plants broke down without the subtle optimizations humans had implemented. Food shortages spread to neighboring systems. On the diplomatic hub of Zephyra Prime, talks intended to resolve disputes collapsed into tension and hostility. Even starship construction slowed, as automated systems, though advanced, lacked the human touch that anticipated problems before they arose. For the first time, the Alien Council realized that humans had never been ordinary. They had always been observers and doers, thinkers and problem solvers, quietly shaping the galaxy in ways the Council had ignored. And now, that shaping had left a void. The Council convened an emergency session, the first in decades. The Grand Hall of Oravon was filled with delegates from all 12 species, their eyes wide with worry. The Lauren delegate, usually calm and composed, spoke with an uncharacteristic tremor. "We underestimated them. Humans, they have been gone, and the galaxy suffers. Every system, every alliance we relied on, faltering. Their influence was not through force, but through presence. And now, we see what we have lost." The other delegates murmured agreement. Even the Zephyra representatives, who had once scoffed at human abilities, admitted quietly that the galaxy could not function without them. It was in that moment that Mara and the human leaders decided the time had come. They would return to the Council, but not as supplicants, not as negotiators begging for recognition. Humans would arrive to show the galaxy what they had always known, that their value was undeniable and their presence was essential. The human fleet moved toward Oravon, not with weapons raised, but with deliberate precision. Ships glided through space perfectly aligned, engines silent, systems humming with quiet efficiency. Every ship was a testament to human ingenuity and adaptability. Every action was calculated, subtle, and effective. When the human fleet entered the Council system, the aliens watched in stunned silence. They had not expected humans to return, and certainly not in such force, not of arms, but of presence. The humans did not broadcast warnings or demands. They simply arrived, fleet after fleet, a quiet but undeniable demonstration of capability. In the Council chamber, Mara and her team stepped forward. The humans walked among the alien delegates with calm confidence. No words of complaint, no anger, no demand for apology, just presence. And the silence was deafening. For hours, the Council members could not speak. They stared at humans who had returned quietly, but with unmistakable authority. Systems stabilized as humans activated protocols designed to demonstrate efficiency. Trade routes resumed operation. Communication relays hummed perfectly. Conflicts that had been escalating for years were diffused without a single raised voice. The Council began to understand. Humans had never sought recognition because their value was intrinsic. Their strength had always been in innovation, adaptability, and the ability to observe and act with precision. And now, after decades of absence, the galaxy had learned its lesson in the most profound way. Humans were indispensable. Mara finally spoke, her voice calm and steady. We did not protest our exclusion. We did not fight to remain. We worked quietly, built, adapted, and observed. And now the galaxy has felt our absence. The systems you rely on, the stability you take for granted, these are the results of human effort. We return, not for permission, but because the galaxy is ready to recognize its own dependence on our capabilities. The Council remained silent, unable to deny the truth. The ripple effects of human absence had been undeniable, and now their presence was impossible to ignore. Over the following months, humans quietly restored balance to the galaxy. They did not demand positions on the Council. They did not seek titles or rewards. They worked, solved problems, and innovated. Entire star systems prospered under human guidance, though it was offered as assistance rather than imposition. And everywhere humans went, the aliens watched, learning. They learned that power did not require aggression. They learned that influence could be wielded without words, without threats, without ceremony. They learned that humans were capable of shaping entire systems simply through ingenuity, patience, and quiet determination. It became clear that humans were no ordinary species. They were a stabilizing force, a creative engine, a presence that could not be ignored. And the silence that had followed their exile, once dismissed as weakness, was now understood as strength beyond measure. In a private moment on the bridge of the flagship Resolute, Mara spoke to her team. "We have not fought. We have not demanded. We have simply done what humans do best: adapt, innovate, and endure. The galaxy finally understands that our silence was never empty. It was presence." Lieutenant Jalen nodded. "It is incredible. They will never forget this lesson." Mara smiled faintly. "No, and they should not. The lesson is simple. Humans are not defined by recognition, by fear, or by force. Humans are defined by their will, their creativity, and their ability to endure. That is why our silence became deafening." And so, the galaxy changed. Alien species began to rely on human innovation not through coercion, but through respect and necessity. Systems became stable once more. Trade flourished. And conflicts were mediated with efficiency humans had quietly perfected over decades. The human fleet remained ready, not for war, but for any challenge the galaxy might face. Colonies continued to expand, fleets continued to operate autonomously, and communication networks connected star systems with unprecedented reliability. Humans had been cast out without protest, yet the galaxy had learned its most important lesson. Absence could speak louder than protest, and quiet strength could be more powerful than any weapon. In the end, the aliens did not merely recognize humans. They respected them. They depended on them. And they understood, at last, that the quiet, patient, creative species they had once dismissed had always been shaping the galaxy in ways they could not comprehend, until it was too obvious to ignore. Mara looked out at the stars, at the endless expanse of space that humans had learned to navigate, innovate in, and thrive across. She did not speak. There was no need. The galaxy had heard the message. The silence of humanity had become deafening, and it had changed everything. The humans had proven that true power did not roar. Sometimes it whispered. Sometimes it worked quietly in the background, invisible but unstoppable. And when the world finally listened, the message was unmistakable. Humans were here to stay.